Hello, my name is Angelina Adames, a student of modern languages at the Pan American University of Puerto, and today we'll explore the intriguing world of news translations, focusing on the distinction between global and cosmopolitan connections in an increasingly interconnected world. New translation plays a vital role in how information is disseminated across cultures and languages. Understanding these connections help us appreciate how news is framed, interpreted, and consumed differently in various contexts. So let's delve into what we mean by global and cosmopolitan connections in the realm of news translations. Let's start defining what we mean with by global connections. When we refer to global news translation, we are talking about the process of translating news content to reach a wide international audience. This typically involves major news organizations such as BBC, CNN, or Reuters that operate on a global scale. In this context, news translations focuses on creating content that is easily accessible and understandable to a broad audience, often prioritizing clarity and neutrality. The aim is to provide a standardized version of news that can transcend linguistic and cultural boundaries. For instance, when a significant global event occurs, like the COVID 19 pandemic, news agencies translate their reports into multiple languages to ensure people worldwide can access the same information, promoting a sense of shared understanding and awareness of global issues. On the other hand, cosmopolitan connections in news translation involve a more nuanced and culturally sensitive approach. This concept emphasizes the interconnectedness of different cultures and the recognition of diverse perspectives within the news narrative. Cosmopolitan news translation doesn't just focus on linguistic accuracy, but also considers cultural context, local relevance, and the audience's social political backgrounds. For instance, when translating news for a specific local audience, translator might adapt the content to reflect cultural nuances, regional concerns, or a specific social context. This could mean including local voices, perspectives, and reactions that would resonate more deeply with the target audience. A great example of this is when international news stories are translated for local newspapers or media outlets, where the focus is on how the global event impacts the local community, thus creating a more relatable and engaging narrative. Key differences between global and cosmopolitan connections. Now, that we have defined both global and cosmopolitan connection, let's look at some key differences between them. Number one, we have a scope of audience. Global news translation aims for the wide reaching audience, while cosmopolitan translation focuses on local and culturally specific audience. Content standardization versus adaptation. Global connections often prioritize standardized reporting, whereas cosmopolitan connection emphasizes the adaptation of news to fit cultural contexts and norms. Cultural sensitive. Cosmopolitan connections are inherently more sensitive to cultural differences and the specific needs of the audience. They aim to engage with local traditions and customs, whereas global connections may overlook these nuances in favor of the broader appeal. Lastly, narrative framing. Global news tends to frame stories in the way that highlight universal themes, whereas cosmopolitan news translation may frame stories to reflect local concerns, highlighting how global events influence local realities. Implications for new consumptions and translation practices. Understanding these differences has significant implications for news consumption and translation practices. Global news translation can lead to homogenized view of world events, potentially marginalizing local narratives and perspectives. This might create a disconnect for audience who seek relatable and culturally resonant information. In contrast, cosmopolitan news translations foster a more inclusive dialogue, allowing for multiple viewpoints to be represented. It encourages audience to engage with news content critically, recognizing their unique cultural contexts and identities. This is particularly important in an era where misinformation can spread rapidly, as diverse narratives can contribute to a more informed public. Ultimately, news translation must strike in a balance between global accessibility and local relevance to ensure that all voices are heard in our interconnected world. To sum up, both global and cosmopolitan connection play crucial roles in news translation, each offering distinct advantages and challenges. While global connection facilitate widespread access to information, cosmopolitan connection enrich the narrative by emphasizing cultural relevance and local context. As we continue to navigate an increasingly global world, understanding this distinction can enhance our appreciation for how news are shared and consumed across different cultures. That is all. I hope you like my presentation and thank you so much for listening.